A shocking moment in the courtroom in North Dakota. Accused murderer Nichole Rice stands for the reading of the verdict. Then this happens.
Find the defendant, Nichole Aaron Rice, not guilty.
Tonight, reaction to this wild reaction. Meanwhile, in New York City, some interesting developments in the case of accused killer Luigi Mangione. Prosecutors say Mangione was caught on camera shooting and killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in cold blood. Despite the allegations, despite the evidence, Luigi has garnered fans and followers like a teen heartthrob. And tonight, new insight into some of the things his fans are sending him. But first, another wild, unexpected twist in the retrial of the century. Karen Reed has added a new member to her defense team, an attorney who knows the evidence better than most, a juror from her first trial. That's right, a juror who ended up as an alternate in Karen Reed's first trial will now be part of Karen Reed's defense team in her second trial. What does this mean? How will it impact the case? Tonight, our in-depth coverage of the trial continues. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments and the Karen Reed case and saga. It's like a box of chocolates, folks. Every day when I come in to cover this, I never know what I'm going to find, right? And today is another one of those days. But let's go back. I mean, this is a case where you have people literally cheering for an accused cop killer outside of the courthouse. And when have you seen that, right? All led by a guy named Turtle Boy, okay? Turtle Boy leads the people who are cheering for someone accused of murdering a cop. And they show up not just at the trial, but at every single court appearance supporting her and believing that she has been framed by police. That's unusual, right? That was like the one you bite into and it's like pink, but you don't know what flavor it is, right? Then there was the investigation of the investigators. Like, when does that happen? Just before the first trial was about to happen, all of a sudden we find out there's this investigation of the investigators by the feds, and then they turn over all the evidence to both sides, and it becomes some of the most compelling evidence in the case and completely changes the complexion of what happened during the course of the next several months during the trial. But when do you see investigators being investigated right before the start of the trial? Doesn't happen. And that one is like the one, it's like, was that caramel or was that nougat? What was it? I don't know. So now we get to the one which is one you bite into it and like you never expected this. One of the jurors from the first trial is now joining the defense team. Are you kidding me? What is the next twist in all of this? I mean, could it get any more wild? Someone who sat as a juror, they ended up as an alternate, so they didn't deliberate, but sat in the jury box, listened to all the evidence, listened to the arguments. Well, guess what? She's a lawyer, and she has joined Karen Reed's defense team. Just to prove it for you, I'm going to put this up. This is on the docket. This is an attorney appearance. On this date, Victoria B. George, Esquire, added for defendant Karen Reed and certificate of service. Now, take a look at this. This goes back to March 2nd from WBZ News. That is when Victoria George, who is an attorney herself and was an alternate juror in Reed's first trial, sent the following to WBZ TV. I was a fair-minded juror who left this trial questioning the integrity of the system long before the defense filed a motion to dismiss with allegations of jury tampering. It is the Reed case itself and the fact that it is still being brought that has left many in Massachusetts wary, distrustful, and scared of our system. As a lawyer, this reality saddens me even more because I remember how much faith I had in our system as an optimistic law student. Mr. Brendan made an impassioned argument today regarding his alleged concern that some might be questioning the fabric of our entire judicial system. If he truly would like to address that problem, I have a few suggestions, she added. Perhaps the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office should be more focused on remedying the systematic issues plaguing it and affiliated police departments rather than continuing to spend millions of taxpayer dollars prosecuting a case with so many evidentiary issues that it calls into question whether they are even following their ethical obligations as prosecutors. The Commonwealth has a duty to protect the rights of defendants, and I, for one, would love to see them do so. Well, she'll have an opportunity to do that now as a member of Karen Reed's defense team. You heard this right. She was a juror. Now she's defending the woman that she sat in judgment of. Let's bring in our think tank tonight, joining us live in studio. Criminal defense attorney, entertainment attorney, former assistant DA in Atlanta, Daryl Cohen is with us. Also joining us, attorney and law professor Meg Strickler, fancy, and criminal defense investigator, he's the best, Charles Middlestat. Okay, has anyone ever seen this before?
Never before and never again. I am literally shocked. If you to reach into my bag of tricks, never would this come out. Just can't happen, but it's happening.
Now, the response from a lot of people, they were asking me today, is there something, are they allowed to do that? And I was thinking, like, why wouldn't they, right? There's no reason why you can't. You were a juror. You're no longer a juror. You're a lawyer. She's on trial. She's licensed to practice in Massachusetts.
It's like with your analogy with the box of chocolates. When you get some of those boxes of chocolates, there really are a large amount of different things. And here we are with a lot of years of practicing. Neither one of us have ever seen something like this. This is crazy. But if she's going to do any of the crosses and the directs, she needs to make sure she doesn't accidentally slip who she is. Because I think there would be an issue if she did that in her questioning.
You know, I think about the experience that you had as a juror. I mean, she's going to know this evidence inside and out. But, Charles, the other thing is, even though she didn't deliberate, I think she can provide a lot of insight.
I think that's a real value. I doubt she crosses anybody. I mean, you literally can't put a price on this woman's participation. I've been involved in some, very well-funded cases where we have spent money on focus groups and on doing mock, trials. And in those settings, you may do that in a matter of a few hours where you're just presenting, the best-case scenario for the defense and a likely prosecution argument. You have a woman who literally sat through the entire trial with live jurors. She saw how every piece of evidence, every bit of testimony, all the physical evidence, all the scientific evidence impacted the jurors, how they talked about it, how they were impacted by it. That's her value. I mean, you're talking about bringing, this is a coup like we've never seen before for the defense. The value is
I never even
absolutely
thought of this scenario, right? This is like a great movie
Amazing.
script.
It really is.
At some point, like they've had movies about rogue jurors who go out and investigate and stuff, but this is like next level. This is a juror who comes back and says, I'm going to defend that woman. Now, from my perspective, this is a not guilty juror if she had deliberated, number one. But number two, she's a lawyer. If she had been a deliberating juror, we wouldn't have had that mess afterwards, where the jury didn't know they could return a partial verdict.
She may not have known that. What if she's a transactional lawyer? Only trial lawyers know all the ins and outs of how a trial works. Think about that. There are a lot of lawyers who don't do the trial work. So she may not have known that nuance. And perhaps she practices in multiple states. There could be all kinds of...
No, she's young. I think she's Massachusetts. She went to Northeastern Law School, great law school in Massachusetts. So one of the deliberating jurors spoke to me on this program. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
We all raised our hands in terms of a vote, and we voted on that first count that we all agreed not guilty. Unfortunately, at that time, we did not fill out any of the paperwork there, nor sign it. So we were under the understanding that each charge could not be treated separately. And so we continued to deliberate, despite the fact that we had agreed on 2 of the counts as not guilty.
To me, what's really interesting, every lawyer I've ever spoken to who has served on a jury, and I don't know if any of you have, the jurors like look to you, so you're almost like their leader. And I wonder if she had been in there and she's a not guilty, we might have had a completely different scenario. We may have had a verdict on all three, and it may have been not guilty on all three. So, Daryl, from your perspective, like, how much do you think Alan Jackson leans on her just for the insight part of all of this?
Well, I agree with Charles. I think he's going to lean on her to say to her and ask her what happened in that jury room. What happened? How did everybody react during the trial? What was it that the state did right, or the Commonwealth? What is it they did wrong? What did we as defense lawyers do right? What did we do wrong? And let's make sure we do it right. But the other thing is, and Meg sort of brought this up, does she have a criminal law background? That makes a big difference, honestly. And they'll lean on her. But if she doesn't have a criminal law background, then there's a lot that she's going to say that's not going to be correct.
Yeah, well, I think you sit as a juror in a criminal case. I mean, that's the greatest experience you can get. But that perspective from the box, I mean, I got to do it once in a civil case, and it was eye-opening to me. Certain parts of the case and the bonds that are created, whether it's with a witness, and sometimes a witness is bad, but you still have some compassion and you feel bad for them. In our case, we had an expert who came in. He was way past his prime, didn't know what year it was. But at the end of the day, I felt bad for him, but I felt really bad for the plaintiff whose lawyers had hired this guy, because he was the most important witness, and he was obviously tanking. So I felt like, oh, that is really bad. But there's a level of connection, because that jury box is right next to the witness stand. You're always close to the parties. I mean, to me, that was the part I never understood. And I wonder what adjustments Alan Jackson will make. Do you think that they will considerably change, perhaps, based upon the feedback that she gives about things that they stress? Absolutely. Because the third-party culpability here is a big issue. Like, how hard do you go at people in the house? Do you keep it vague? Is it about Trooper Proctor? Is it about the people in the house that night?
Well, you have to remember, Karen Reed has to have likability. If she has likability, that jury listens and watches the evidence in one way. If they don't like her, they don't like the way her hair is, the way she's looking at them, her makeup, whatever that is.
I think there were some reactions that some of them did not like.
Exactly.
That's what this edition is going to do. Yep. You're talking about the ultimate inside ball knowledge here. And even though she may not be a defense lawyer, she's going to have, decent instincts. And I'm assuming that the actual defense lawyers will filter what she shares with the fact that, she may not have the criminal experience. But wow, I mean, if you've ever sat through mock juries and you see the reactions and what they're actually talking about versus what it is you're trying to impart, and you're like, whoa, what are you talking about? We're over here and you guys are over there, and they totally missed it. This person is going to have the ability to give them that sort of information in a way that they would have never been able to acquire.
And especially in Massachusetts. Now, there are states around the country, and I don't know what how it works in Georgia, but in some states, you can talk to the jurors afterwards. Yes, in Massachusetts, very strict. Like, the juror has to approach you. You cannot reach out to any juror. I've been in states where they'll invite, right after the trial, they invite the attorneys in to speak to the jury.
So we do.
Not in Massachusetts. So this is extremely unique.
I presume that's how it happened, right? She makes the statement to the...
She's got to reach out to them.
What? She made the statement to the television network,
to WBZ.
Right? And so they probably, in reaction to that, went, hey, we need to talk to her, right? I assume that's the...
But I don't think they could reach out. I think it's got to be the other way, where she's got to make contact, and then once you make contact, then the conversation is what it is.
She reaches out. Really good for her practice, whether she's a criminal lawyer, whatever type of practice, it's free advertising, and you can't buy that.
But I will tell you that when you do jury trials, you're focusing on A, B, or C, whatever you're losing your mind over to try to convey to the jury. And then after the trial, you speak to the jury, and they're like, oh, we just didn't like how that prosecutor talked. Something like that, and you're thinking, I lost sleep for how many months to convey things. And that's what they hung their hook on.
Yeah.
And that's what usually happens.
So, reading her statement to WBZ, she is what I call a true believer. Like, she it believes this whole thing. She comes from the same perspective as the Sea of Pink that is outside the courthouse.
She went to law school in Boston, too, so she spent 3 years there already knowing.
An unethical prosecution.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But she's from there in that sense. Like
she's a taxpayer. She's from there. She lived the trial. And after seeing and hearing all the evidence in the case and the arguments, she believes that Karen Read is being railroaded. This prosecution should not happen. And now is part of the team. I mean, to me, this is an amazing twist and turn. Do we think that prosecutors will do anything about this? Object or?
No.
It's WTF.
I don't know.
It's just going to give it more oxygen. It's going to give it more oxygen.
And what's your objection? I mean, I really don't think there's any legal way to prevent her to be on the team.
They tried to get the communications between Karen Read and her attorney.
True.
So they're very aggressive.
This was vetted by the state bar, right? That's probably the very first thing that happened. This defense team went to state bar and said, can we even do this, right? Because it almost seems pretty unprecedented.
Yes, I'm sure they went
right?
and just said, can we do this? And before they filed the notice of appearance, they were like, can we do this? I agree with you.
Yeah.
And they've done it. It's too late. As soon as the prosecution complains, then it has legs that don't go away. It's a flashing light, trying to keep her off. Why are they trying to keep her off? Trying to keep her off. Oh, wait, I don't know. That's
hurts them, hurts the prosecution.
And I think what happens here now is, you know, the buildup to this trial is starting next week with jury selection, and obviously Court TV will be covering this entire case as we did the first time around. I mean, this adds like another layer of the intensity of what's happening. Now, to me, there's two parts of this case, right? There's what happened to John O'Keefe, but there's a whole nother drama that is taking place now that is getting very personal between the two sides, the prosecution and the defense. The prosecution much more aggressive now. They hired a defense attorney to prosecute the case, someone from outside the office, which again, it's not a small office. Like, I think they have more than 50 attorneys in the office, but they don't have one that could try the case. They had to hire someone to come in. But he has the mindset, that defense attorney, aggressive mindset, challenging.
Are you saying we're aggressive?
Aggressive, challenging evidence, trying to keep evidence out of the case.
We're not.
Sometimes you don't want to try to keep it out. Sometimes you want to
just defend their constitutional rights.
You want to adjust it.
But in this case, prosecutors are doing that. They were making money. Don't bring in this expert. This evidence is not admissible. We want the communications between the defendant and her attorney.
They're being put on the defensive for once.
Yes, yay.
It's fascinating, but what has happened now is it's gotten much more, I mean, like this between the lawyers. So let me ask you, does either side have to be careful in the way they fight amongst each other in front of the jury?
Yes, you need to maintain professionalism. Both Daryl and I do that. We were just talking about that. You have to maintain your professional aura at all times. And if you start getting personal and start getting subjectively involved in this, you're going to reflect yourself.
Who's it more important for, the defense or the prosecution?
Yes.
I'm with him. I agree.
You agree? You agree, Charles?
Yeah, I would say so.
Look, I got them to
agree. I think the jury.
I got them all to agree. So let's just leave it right there. Yeah. All right. Good news. Think Tank staying with us. They'll be with us the entire hour. When we come back, we're going to talk about another big case that we are covering here on Court TV. Luigi Mangione. Apparently, he's getting a lot of things sent to him. We're going to go through it, and I mean, it's insane, really, what's happening in that case. The level of support that he is garnering and the passion that his supporters have. It's like Karen Read, but for a completely different reason. We'll do that, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan investigates the murder of 4 innocent University of Idaho students. And now, newly revealed evidence about the alleged purchase of the murder weapon. Did the defendant try to purchase a replacement knife and sheath? Tonight, we investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan investigates tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
It's a whodunit Hollywood story.
Monica Cimentelli is accused of plotting to kill her husband.
Celebrity hairstylist Fabio Cimentelli.
The celebrity stylist murder trial continues Tuesday on Court TV.
Following breaking news out of New York City as police are searching for a gunman.
He ignores numerous other pedestrians, approaches the victim from behind, and shoots him in the back.
A person has been taken into custody in Altoona, Pennsylvania in connection to the CEO shooting.
We must do more on the federal level to clamp down on the availability of ghost guns.
It feels good to get a guy like that off the street.
We are here to announce that Luigi Mangione, the defendant, is charged with 1 count of murder in the first degree and 2 counts of murder in the second degree, including 1 count of murder in the second degree as an act of terrorism.
So the case of Luigi Mangione has taken on a life of its own. Now, he's facing charges in state court and federal court. The evidence that we've gone over several times in this program and on Vinnie Politan Investigates seems overwhelming to me, right? From the outside. You got video, tracking, everything else. But despite all of that, you know, I know all the supporters he had. Last time I checked, and this was a while ago, he had raised over $700,000, close to $800,000 for his legal defense. And these are people giving money. One supporter gave like $36,000 to support him. And unlike Karen Reed, people are supporting her because they believe she's being railroaded and set up and framed. I think the supporters of Mangione believe he did it. And they just want to see if he can do it and get away with it, is what they're hoping. Now, another twist to all this with all these supporters out there. Take a look. Prior to the February 21st, 2025 court appearance, Major Mike McKee, a New York State officer assisting in the defendant's transport, was given a bag of clothing for the defendant by members of the defense team. Investigator Sergeant Louis Capolupo was charged with searching the clothing. Among the items of clothing was a pair of Argyle socks wrapped around cardboard. Secreted in the cardboard were 2 personal heart-shaped notes, one addressed to an unknown person named Joan, the other to Luigi, stating in part, quote, "Know there are thousands of people wishing you luck." In spite of this, the defendant was permitted to wear the Argyle socks, which he first changed into and later changed out of because he, Luigi, felt that, quote, "they did not look good." Daryl Cohen, why would he not wear socks with his loafers?
Because those of us who grew up in the South and went, he didn't grow up in the South though. Those of us who did don't ever wear socks with our loafers. It's a Southern thing. I don't wear socks with my loafers. Do you? Would I? Nah. But never. Argyle socks, really?
Well, explain this to me. I think the folks at home got a good look at your legs, Daryl. We'll get some comments on that. Fantastic, thank you.
Lovely.
Yeah. Okay, so explain to me how this note could get through.
It shouldn't
have.
have.
It shouldn't have. Like, if the attorneys are providing the clothing, do they have an obligation to kind of search? Like, don't you get it, like, yourselves?
I'm always nervous, so I always go through it, sadly. And, you know, if there's anything in there, I don't want my name attached to it that I'm trying to do something untoward, so I always go through whatever.
Because family members sometimes will provide it, and sometimes the attorneys will do it, right?
Right.
I think it's comical that we're talking about notes, which are not really contraband, when in every single detention center, every single prison in this country, literally drugs, contraband, cell phones, weapons are being brought in, mostly by corrections officers for sale, and it's pervasive. And so
he was permitted to wear the socks, so they didn't confiscate the socks.
Right, but
they could have, because he wasn't wearing them anyway.
A couple of notes got in, and
but the difference is, it's like through the attorneys, and that's why I was a little surprised. So
Well, maybe, not necessarily. I mean, maybe the attorneys at some point handed it to corrections officers. Someone inspected those items before they gave them to Luigi.
And maybe that's where it got in.
Well, but
how big
but the
were the
bag
notes?
of clothing for the defendant was given to them by members of the defense team, whoever it was, and then it was the sergeant who searched and found the note.
Exactly.
So you're saying the sergeant?
At some point, the facility is responsible for the integrity of those items, right? They're just not handing those directly to Luigi without inspecting.
No, they
them.
handed it to, right. So you're going to find stuff.
You're supposed to find stuff.
Right.
And if they didn't, maybe someone else put it in there. Maybe someone got paid to put something in
It's
there.
a little weird how
Who
much
knows?
junk is hanging out in those prisons.
But you know what? It doesn't matter.
Well, it does matter, Daryl, and I'll tell you why it does matter, because folks are very concerned or curious about what they can and cannot send Luigi Mangione. Now, he has a legal defense site up, and we were going through it today, and there's actually a section with frequently asked questions because he has so many supporters. So I want you to take a listen to some of those frequently asked questions, as read by Court TV producer Virginia Warner and Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas.
Luigi Mangione legal defense information, frequently asked questions. Can I send mail to Luigi? Can he respond?
Luigi is allowed to write and receive letters while in custody. Every letter that is received or sent is screened and reviewed by law enforcement. Because Luigi receives photocopied versions of letters sent to him, we recommend anyone sending a letter to please date and number the pages.
May I send him items like books?
Due to the overwhelming generosity of members of the public, numerous books have already been mailed to Luigi. He is very appreciative, but kindly asks that people temporarily refrain from sending more books. The number of books he can possess at any given time is limited.
Can I send Luigi photos?
Luigi is allowed to receive photos via Shutterfly and free prints in accordance with mail procedures while in custody. Due to the volume of photos, they could take longer than usual to be screened and shared. Luigi appreciates the photos that are sent and kindly asks that people send no more than 5 photos at a time.
What else can I send Luigi?
Other than books, mail, news articles, or photos, no other items can be sent to Luigi.
So is this all pretty normal? But, I mean, the level of attention he's getting, because he has turned into a bit of a heartthrob. People are sending photos. They want to send him presents. They want to send him books. What are your thoughts about how this is all being handled by the defense?
I think that it's unusual, but predictable. We have a number of people in a cult in this country that will go for anything, regardless of whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. And here, Luigi is not yet convicted, but he is a person who has been seen committing a heinous murder.
I mean, I think it's garnering support for him, and so that's why the legal defense put it up there. And so perhaps it might influence potential jurors. I don't have an issue with it. I am fascinated that $700,000, $800,000 has been raised for somebody who has no need for money.
Yeah, but he's getting it.
That fascinates me.
I mean, I'm not surprised by this. You're talking about somebody who's become essentially a symbol of people's extreme frustration and anger towards an industry that often treats people in a way that makes them feel powerless. There's probably not one of us sitting up here who has not had a negative interaction with an insurance company in the form of a claim that we filed.
But it's more than that, though. He's a young, male, good-looking. That's part of it
Sure
too,
it
though.
is.
It's clearly part of it.
But the protest and the support. I mean, yes, I think there's clearly some of that support is just fandom, people who are attracted to him, people just sort of a cult sort of atmosphere.
The closest
the
I
other
can
is
come,
frustration.
in the years of court TV with something like this would be the Menendez brothers.
Yeah.
To me, that was the last time. You remember
Yeah.
how people were, especially when they put on the pastel sweaters. Oh my goodness, people were losing it. It was insanity. Let me ask you though, this, and I think that, I don't know what the numbers are, the percentage or what the demo is, but do you think there's a chance that if someone like that gets on this jury, regardless of the evidence,
there is a chance.
This thing's going to hang.
Yes.
There's always a chance.
Like if you get two people who, you know, feel the way a lot of these folks feel, but maybe don't express it during voir dire.
Yes, it could happen, and then look at Karen Reed. I know they're completely unrelated situations, but that person who might be on the jury for Luigi could have seen the Karen Reed debacle, shall we call it, and just think law enforcement's evil, as also healthcare is evil. I'm not going to put this person in jail.
I don't like the system.
Yes.
I think the system is terrible, and I'm going to do what I need to do to show them. I know the evidence says he's guilty, but I'm voting not guilty.
How much do the lawyers know about the jurors?
We get nothing. We get like a little list of like where they live, how old they are, and what their occupation is. It depends on the jurisdiction. So we get very little.
Is there a potential to investigate them during the course of jury selection, where you find out, you know, what they're saying, who their friends are, what their friends post, and get a profile?
That's the whole
Absolutely.
plot of
I
jury
have been involved in those efforts in high-profile cases where literally in real time.
In real time?
In real time during voir dire, a team of mine sitting there scouring social media and scouring court records and trying to turn around information as quickly as possible.
And I would think in this case you're going to develop some sort of a profile for who these support, if you're the defense, right? Who the supporters
leanings, everything.
Yeah, but if you want to get sort of the profile of what the prototypical Luigi Mangione supporter is, like, you know, where they fall in the spectrum and how you can identify them by things other than saying I support Luigi Mangione. I mean, I think the prosecutors should do that too, because those are the ones you want to bounce off.
Yes. Well, you're looking at people who are unconventional, people that are charismatic in their view, people that have a different view. I'm not going to be the sit-down, button-down. I love this man because of what he did. He's showing the system is just terrible. That's the type of juror that the prosecution doesn't want.
And they're not going to say that during voir dire.
Yeah, I think most of them live in Brooklyn, though, and I don't know if they're going to be in this jury pool. For the federal case, they might.
It depends on where they live on Ocean Parkway.
Yeah. Think tank staying where they are. When we come back, what happened in North Dakota today? This verdict was very unexpected, and it's not the words that were uttered, it was the reaction to the words that were uttered by this jury.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Rakeem Mayers, not guilty of...
All right, there's a new trend in the world, and it's not happening on TikTok. Apparently, it's happening in courtrooms, which is reactions to verdicts, specifically the ones that come down with 2 words instead of 1 word. You won't see a reaction like that on a 1-word verdict, but when not guilty is uttered in a courtroom, we're starting to see a sort of a change of what's happening. Like, this is like, that was ASAP Rocky, right? We covered that trial out of LA. Not guilty. There was still a second count that they had to hear, but he hears not guilty once. He's diving into the arms of Rihanna in the front row. So now we go to North Dakota. Nichole Rice in the toxic roommates trial, accused of murdering her roommate. It's a case that goes back to 2007, so it happened a while ago. But everything is on the line. She's charged with murder, and here's the verdict. Watch and listen.
State of North Dakota, in District Court, County of Ward, North Central Judicial District. State of North Dakota plaintiff versus Nichole Aaron Rice, defendant. Criminal number 51 2022 CR 00421. Verdict form. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn, find the defendant, Nichole Aaron Rice, not guilty of in the information dated at Grand Forks, North Dakota, this 26th day.
Unbelievable. Like a roar. And it wasn't from like the lay people in the gallery. It was from the attorneys. and obviously the family and everyone else involved, and there's the breakdown. But that roar, I can't tell you how many times I've been in a courtroom and watched cases here at Court TV where the judge ahead of time will say, no outbursts, you know, let's keep the decorum. Sometimes they don't. And if you don't, I guess if you don't say it, anything can happen. And that just actually happened. Meg, that's amazing.
What I think is interesting is what her reaction is. That's very normal. I've had many a defendant just basically melt because they've been holding themselves facing life in prison, and then we get that not guilty. They literally melt because all the adrenaline that they have been thinking, and they can go home.
That I get.
That I get. The lawyers, that blows my mind. I can't imagine being in a courtroom and that occurring, ever. We, again, need to maintain our professional decorum, and most judges I've ever been in front of will give us that admonishment. I'll hold you in contempt. You may, when the jury comes out and they read the verdict, we need to have decorum. I don't want any outbursts. That's what they say. Always.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened.
I mean,
here.
that's what you usually see at the local bar around the corner when you're celebrating your verdict, Darryl.
I would never expect a lawyer to have the type of outburst that I saw in that courtroom. It's disappointing to me. I'm glad that the lawyers were into it emotionally, psychologically, but I don't like the lack of decorum. And maybe I'm just old school. It's just, as Meg just said, not professional.
My guess is, though, Charles, what do you think? I think other accused may kind of like these guys for the level of passion.
Absolutely.
And obviously the results as well.
Right. The way that it impacts me is these attorneys are clearly very devoted to their representation. They felt strongly about the case that they put up in terms of the defense case. And they were obviously very invested in the outcome. And so when it went their way, there was an emotional outburst. And whether it crossed the line and it's inappropriate or not, or it's not the proper decorum,
We teach that. We teach you to be professional at all
But there is
times.
something sort of endearing about that as just for the sake of criminal justice, in my opinion, and for the sake of, as a potential defendant out there who's watching, who's considering this, they're saying, I want that kind of lawyer.
Yeah.
That's who I want representing
I
me.
mean, if I was those lawyers, I'd put that on my website right now. I'd put that.
Yeah.
And here they are afterwards. Could you imagine a prosecutor doing that?
Never.
Doing a back.
That's why I tell people there's a difference. There is a difference. And I think in that moment as well, it's the same thing. Well, yeah, but they're getting justice for someone who's been murdered. Like you have to understand, like there are career prosecutors who do it for a reason. They feel like they're getting justice for that family that's behind them, that mother, that brother, that child, whoever is left behind as the victim.
I get that, but let's not. I think the nuance to it is that the state or the government has the burden of bringing the case, right? It's the burden rests on them. They have that. The defense doesn't have a burden, and unless it's shifted or they assume the burden, right? But the burden rests on the state. I think it's just a different dynamic.
This is disrespectful to the victim. This is disrespectful to the whole rule of law and the concept of a courtroom. I just have a real strong opinion on this.
Let's remember, this defendant was fighting for her life.
Yeah.
Right? And the jury spoke. And the jury found her not guilty.
Her reaction was very good. Her reaction was good.
And that's okay. The jury did what they thought they should do, and they did it.
They could talk all night, folks, but we don't have all night. Darryl Cohen, Meg Strickler, and Charles Middlesex, thank you so much. Always great to have you here. When we come back, I'll reveal something else you need to know tonight, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan investigates the brutal murder of 4 college students in Idaho, all in the same house. But there were 2 more roommates there that night. Why were they spared? Tonight, we investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan investigates. Coming up next, only on Court TV.
The jury was sequestered for 9 months.
These people were too beat down to even try to fight for their own conviction.
Trial and Error. Why did O.J. win? Season finale Sunday night, 8 Eastern and Pacific. Only on Court TV.
Welcome back. Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Take a look. Trial begins Thursday. Who is this man? Ingolf Tuerk, a world-renowned surgeon, former Olympic athlete. The trial begins Thursday. Judge Ashley Wilcott has the story.
Dr. Ingolf Tuerk is not your typical surgeon. At 6'3" with an athletic physique, it's easy to see why he was once a member of the German Olympic decathlon team.
This ad from Steward Healthcare focused on the once prominent urologist, Ingolf Tuerk.
Surgery is physical, very demanding work. For hours, you are physically involved in a surgery, and that requires that you're physically fit as a surgeon.
Tuerk's face was featured on billboards across Boston, but after being charged with medical billing fraud, the doctor's career spiraled, and his personal life took a dramatic turn when he was arrested in connection to the death of his wife, 45-year-old Kathleen McLean.
We agree to the motion for disclosure of bad acts, if there are any intended, as well as defendant's conduct.
Ingolf Tuerk was called Harry by his wife, Kathleen. The two met online in November of 2017, and 4 months later, they were engaged and living together with Kathleen's 3 kids. At first, they seemed to live a life of domestic bliss, but that would all change.
Kate McLean painting the picture that the district attorney's office has been painting, that she was a victim of domestic violence, being married to this guy, that he was abusive, that he was controlling. She ended up getting restraining orders.
Kathleen told police she was physically abused and wanted a divorce back in February of 2020, but the couple then reconciled. On May 15th, after Kathleen's friend received a text from Tuerk saying, "Kurt, I am sorry, brother, but she is a vindictive devil. She played us all. I'm really sorry, brother, but she manipulated us all. Love you, Harry." Police were alerted and began their search for both Harry and Kathleen. Harry was found unresponsive with cut wounds to his left wrist and a laceration on his forehead. He awoke in a hospital the next day and told police he choked Katie to death after an altercation where she struck him in the head. He then dumped the body in a nearby pond.
He admitted to the fact that in the course of hot blood, heat of passion, at the worst, is that they ended up with a physical confrontation between the two of them, and she ended up dead. That's right.
So what does that get him off the hook for murder?
That's up to a jury.
By the way, this trial is taking place in the same courthouse as the Karen Reed trial. So my guess is they'll be in the big courtroom, and Karen Reed will be once again, in that small little courtroom. But there you saw Kevin Reddington, and if he's the one representing Ingolf Tuerk, one of the best defense attorneys in Massachusetts, so expect a real battle in this one. I believe he's claiming self-defense because she struck him first in the head is going to be the claim. But this guy is huge. I mean, 6'3", East German Olympic athlete. So we'll see that. It all begins tomorrow right here on your front row seat to justice. Right now, though, please take a look at your screens. We have a missing child who needs your help. This is Tristan Ecker. Tristan is missing since March 25th from Kansas City, Missouri. Just 17 years old. Here's what you need to do. If you see Tristan, take a look at the picture. Pick up the phone, make a call, make a difference, 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Kansas City Police Department in Missouri. That phone number's on our screen right now. Let's see if we can get Tristan to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere. We have another hour of live true crime. Vinnie Politan Investigates is next. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.